Hello, this is going to be a bit of a refresh from Drawing Plus 2D or Design Plus 2D Drawing. I can't remember the course name right now. It's been a day of videos, but I'm going to kind of give you a recap on how to digitize your recipe icon sketches in Illustrator. So here I am in Illustrator. I'm going to go to New File because we want to create a new file and we want to make sure that file is print. And then per the project statement, we're doing inches here, and I want you to set up your icons on an 11 by 8.5 inch document. So basically that is just, a letter size, but landscape instead of portrait. So I'm just going to hit, and all the rest of this, CMYK color, high 300 PPI, make sure that you have those in there as well. And I'm going to hit create. So at this point, you have done your sketches, you've gotten feedback on your sketches, and you have sort of the direction that you're going to move forward with. And those should be saved as like a JPEG or something like that. And I kind of made some little sketches just for the purposes of this tutorial. So I'm going to go File, Place, and I'm going to go to where my sketches are, and I think they're right here. So I'm going to find my sketches in my, make sure your files are all organized, and I'm going to hit Place. And then what that does is you can see I've got my little cursor loaded up with my sketches, and then these are my sketches. I kind of scan them this way where they're sort of 3 up like this, and I think that's okay. I might actually, because eventually we're going to get rid of this template, so I might duplicate this. If you hit Option and drag, or you could copy paste, but I'm just going to hit Option and drag and then kind of move this one up. Just so they have them all on one page. And obviously you guys are doing 8. I just am showing 3 here, and you can resize them as you draw them and move things to the artboard, the sides and all that kind of stuff. This should probably be familiar to you. But the biggest thing, and we're going to start by drawing these. I'm not going to draw all of them. I'm going to draw these. And what the biggest thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you start working in layers right away. So I consider this right now, these sketches are my template. So I'm going to call this first layer template. And then I'm going to go down here to my create new layer and create a new layer, and I'm going to call this my working layer. And that way I know that I always want to be working on my working layer, not my template layer. And you can tell these objects are on your template layer because the border around them is blue. As I start working in my working layer, the border around those objects are going to be red. So because I don't want my background templates to move around, I'm going to go ahead and lock that template layer, and that way I can kind of zoom in, draw on them, and then go to town. So on my working layer, I'm going to start to just trace these objects. You're going to notice that, you want to try to get your scans placed relatively straight. Just it makes it easier to draw that way. And if you don't have to trace these perfectly, what we're going to do is trace them really quickly. And then I'm going to show you how you can kind of make some decisions. So I'm going to go to my rounded rectangle tool because I kind of want my handles to be rounded. And I'm just going to draw and kind of try to trace over the overall shape of that object. You can zoom in and out. I'm just kind of pinching with my trackpad, but Command plus, Command minus, those are also things you can do to trace in and out. And I did the rounded, but I don't really like this level of roundness, so I'm going to click on this little dot here, and I'm sort of going to lessen the radius of that outline. And then what I'm going to do is kind of move that over a little bit, and then you see this whisk. You're kind of going to start determining what shape would best represent this whisk. I could use the pen tool and draw those, but you kind of want to go the easiest route. Again, we're really simplifying these icons so that they are viewed, small and big. So I'm going to start actually with my ellipse tool, and I'm just going to kind of draw a shape like this. And I'm going to go ahead and not fill it. I'm just going to have that stroke, and that way I can kind of see my template. And then you'll notice in your layers, I'm starting to kind of fill in. My outline is red, and then these are all the things that are within my layer that I'm drawing. So I'm going to start with one in the middle here. I'm not as tall as this, so I can move this up a little bit. And then I'm going to duplicate this. So you could either copy paste, or if you hold down Option, you'll see my cursor changes, and then I can make a copy of that. So I'm going to hold down Option, and what I'm going to do is rotate that a little bit. So we'll just rotate it a bit. And then I'm going to drag Option again, and then, I could go to my object transform and reflect this to get that same angle, and you can see because I have preview on, it kind of shows me, and I'm going to hit OK because I probably wouldn't be able to guess what that angle was. So I'm going to put that there, and then I'm going to bring this to the front. This is my handle. So I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. And then I'm going to turn my template off just to see what we have. Okay, I think that kind of looks like a whisk. So there's my whisk. I'm going to turn this off. And then what I'm going to do is, oops, I unlocked my template. I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to group it yet, but I'm going to now, because I want my icon little things to all be very similar in the way they look, I'm going to copy and drag this over to my knife so that my knife handle matches. And now I'm going to look at my spoon. I'm going to go ahead first and kind of select everything in my whisk and group it. So I'm going to go to Object, Group. I'm going to move this over a little bit. So I'm going to start with the spoon. So the spoon, again, circles a rounded shape here. And that's really all there is to the spoon. So I'm going to go back to my rounded rectangle. And I'm just going to kind of draw this shape here. And I think the roundness of this is probably okay. I'm going to move it over a little bit. And then I'm going to do my spoon, which obviously is an ellipse. So I'm going to draw my spoon shape. If you hold the space bar while you have your mouse held down, you can kind of move it over a little bit. So I'm going to try to move that over. I want to make sure that my two objects are centered. So if I kind of just start moving this over a little bit, that little pink line shows that those objects are centered. But now what I want to do is I want this all to be one shape. So if I select the oval, hit Shift, select the stick. If I go to my Pathfinder tool and click on Click to Unite, that makes that a shape. So I could either leave my spoon simple like this. I could draw another oval inside my spoon just to see what that looks like, to kind of show, that spoons have a little bit of depth to them. Make this a little bit longer. Okay, we're gonna go there. I could, if I wanted to, make this stroke a little bit smaller. Right now I'm gonna select everything and make this 1 point. Right now we're dealing with a 1 point stroke. I could make this a 1/2 point stroke. We have to watch though, because these are obviously going to get a little bit smaller. So we're going to do that for now and just leave it be. So now I'm going to move this over, and then I would probably draw the knife the same way. I would figure out what tool would be best to draw this knife. I'm not going to do that for this video because it would get super long, but I probably would use the pen tool for the knife. But I'm going to go ahead and just delete this for now. And so we're just going to pretend we're working with this whisk and this spoon. So I'm just going to kind of select those and then bring them over here. And what you could do now, if you wanted to, is because I don't want the distraction of the templates. Actually, one thing I did notice, and it's really good idea to use your guides. So I want to make sure, because this is an icon set, because I want these to look like they all go together, I'm going to have them kind of stop at the same point. So I'm taking my direct selection tool, my white tool, and I'm just going to go like that. I think that looks a lot better. Okay, so now that we have those, I'm going to turn off the layer with the template so I don't have to see that right now. So these are the decisions that you want to start making. So right now I have this icon, the whisk and the spoon, that's representing the tools. I'm going to go ahead and group the spoon too. A Command G is also a way to group it. And I'm going to try a couple different things with this. So I'm going to duplicate it. I'm just Option dragging it because I don't want to just, draw these and settle for that, because these are icons. And I'm going to do another one where I click on these, drag it over. Oops, I didn't hit Option. Drag it over. And then I'm going to group these as well. So Command G. I'm going to make these really small. And if you have a printer at home, it'd be awesome. So right now, if I look at these are about almost 3/4 of an inch. And it's a good idea to print. Like you could print these out, see what they look like, see if they're, I kind of want you guys to be able to have these go down to like a 1/2 inch. So you might want to determine, how small can I make this where they're legible? Do I need to beef up the stroke width at all? Another thing I want to show you guys real quick is one of the settings that you want to make sure is checked. And so I'm going to go to the Illustrator icon and go to settings. And then I'm going to go to general. One of the things you want to make sure that you have checked, and I have it checked here, is scale, stroke, and effects. If you don't have this checked, when you have a 1-point stroke around an object and you reduce that object, say 50% or 25%, that stroke is still going to be a 1-point stroke. So it's going to look really, really ugly. So if that happens, just go back to your InDesign or Illustrator settings and make sure this scale, stroke, and effects is checked. It's not default. I think it should be default, but I'm glad I remembered to tell you that. Okay, so I'm going to try a couple different things. So right now I have black, icons with strokes. Totally fine. What happens if I decide that I want all my icons to be in a shape? So I'm going to make this shape. I'm going to make this black, and then I'm going to send it to the back. Object, arrange, send back. Obviously, my spoon, my whisk, all this kind of stuff, my strokes are not white. So now I'm going to select my whisk and make this stroke white. You could leave the handle white. So let's say we make this stroke white as well. But then I would have to make the inside stroke black still. So then I'm going to go to my direct select tool and then make that stroke black. Looks kind of cool. In this case, I probably would take this stroke back to a 1 point just so that it's a little beefier. So I think that looks nice. If you wanted to just have them all be shapes, again, because this is grouped, I could ungroup it, or I can use my direct selection tool and take this and also fill this with black. Oops, I made the stroke black. Fill this with black. To see, so now it's just all outlined. So I would probably go back to this stroke, make it white, and then go here, make this stroke white, but also fill this with black. I guess I would have to fill this with black as well to see what that looks like. I probably should have made a duplicate before I made all those changes just to see what that looks like again. So, play around with, is it on a black background? Is it on a white background? Are the, corners rounded? You want to make sure you kind of have equal space around all of them. Then you can take this, I hit Command G to group it, duplicate that again, hold down Shift, make it really small. Oops. So here you see, so here you see what happened is that my corner radius didn't, reduce with that. So I'm going to ungroup this again. I'm going to just click on the edge, and I'm going to make sure that corner radius gets fixed. I just kind of clicked on these little buttony doohickeys here, and that will universally change those corner radiuses. Now I have this. I can print this, see what that looks like, tiny. Since I made a bunch of duplicates, I could also take this and, what happens if this is at an angle, and maybe we make the spoon at another angle, maybe these cross over each other, group them together. I could do this. So the great thing about Illustrator and the great thing about making multiple different copies of your tools in Illustrator is that you can make sure that you've found the best option for your set that you possibly can. And then what I would do once I kind of figured out what I liked, I might take these to the outside area here just to, as I work on my other icons. So that I'm going to go back to my layer and turn my template layer on. I'm going to move forward with the vegetables, the timer, the cookware, and then keeping this all on one artboard. That way, everything that you're doing that's this kind of style, you can have on the same artboard. If you had to kind of develop a few different styles and your sketches, but once you get your sketches reviewed, you're really just going to be moving forward with one look. So hopefully this kind of helps and gives you a little bit of a refresher on turning your sketches into Illustrator icons or Illustrator drawings. And this could be helpful for many different things that you might be working on in future projects. So as always, email me with any questions.